Hello my dear friends, you're on the Military Summary channel and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 15th of May. Today we got a lot of very interesting news, so let's start. According to the Russian sources map, they have updated their map and we see that they're showing us that Ukrainians managed to reach the border with the Russian Federation at some point of their front line, at least near the town Ternova. According to the Russian sources, they're saying that Ukrainians managed to reach the border. If we're talking about the West source map, we can say that they're still saying that the Russians control this town Ternova. But we'll see what's next. Now we're moving to the south. There is just a small update on the Russian sources map. Today there was a video, and according to this video, the Ukrainian forces, they were launching their missiles towards this area. That means that this territory is under the Russian control. And by the way, this information is also confirmed by the Ukrainians, by the West source map. This town, Grachove, and this town, Grachove, under the Russian control. A very important update came today from the Izyum area. This is our Izyum area. As you remember, in previous versions of this map, the Russians controlled just half of this forest, according to the Russian sources map. You remember that there was a green line in this area. But yesterday, there was an accident here in this front line. If you maybe you saw this in the internet, there was a video how Ukrainians established there another pontoon bridge in this area near the town Zavgorodny Petrovsky. In this area, they managed to establish the pontoon bridge and they managed to cross this river. And the most important part of this video was that the Russians, they spotted this pontoon bridge, they destroyed this pontoon bridge. But as I told you, the Ukrainians, they managed to move some forces towards this forest. And that video said that the Russians spotted the Ukrainian forces in this part of the forest with their artillery, with their troops, with their vehicles. So we can say that the Russians has the vehicles in this part of the forest. So that's why it proves that the Russians have more than 90% of control over this forest. So that's why the Russians, they updated this map, showing us that the Russians control this forest. Another important news came today from the south of Izyum bridgehead, from the town Dovgenke. 2 days ago, the Russians announced that they established control over the town Dovgenke. The West sources map, they're not confirming this information. They're just showing us that there was heavy clashes there and that this town still under Ukrainians. So 2 days ago, the Russians informed that they established control over this small town and they pushed Ukrainians towards this forest. A day ago, the Russians, they told that Ukrainians attempt the counter-offensive operation and that they forced Russians to leave at least half of this town. So as far as I can see, according to the last version of this map, we can say that half of this town is under the Russian control and another half of this town is under Ukrainian control. This town is very important for both sides. You see this town, you see that after this town there is a forest, and after this forest there is a straight road towards Slaviansk. So this area was very important. It's very important because Ukrainians, they use this area, this town, for their defense line. So the Russians were in the north and Ukrainians using this forest, they was invisible first of all for the Russians, and they move towards the Dovgenke, their equipment, their west weapon, hard weapon, heavy weapon, and using this town they destroyed a lot of Russian forces in this area. And the Russians, they couldn't continue their offensive operation towards Barvinkive because there was a very dangerous place in their back, and this was the Dovgenke. So that's why the Russians decided to first solve this issue, and after that they will continue their moving towards Barvinkova. So the main idea of this operation, of this Russian offensive operations towards Dovgenke is the following. First, they were planning to establish control over this town, Dovgenke. As soon as they do this, the next step would be to establish control or to start offensive operation towards Dolina. If they are able to establish control over Dolina, then they will be able to create a wedge between these two forests. And this wedge would cut this Ukrainian defense area into pieces. This is the wedge. And the third step is, of course, to prepare the bridgehead in this area. Yesterday, I remember that the Ukrainian military authorities, they told that there were very heavy clashes near the town Bogorodichne. This is the town. So somehow the Russians attacked this town, Bogorodichne. I think that they were using this forest for these purposes. And the main idea of attacking this town, Bogorodichne, is that near this town is Svetogorsk. And we know this Svetogorsk town, this is the only town that has the bridge that connects Liman area and the big land. So this is the only bridge that exists. Every other bridge in this area was destroyed by the Russians or by the Ukrainians while retreating. So this is the only bridge. So we can say that if the Russians are able to establish control over Dovgenke, after that over Dolina, meanwhile to establish control over the Bogorodichne, they will be able to cut this entire area, Liman area, from the big land, from the Slavans, from support. The Ukrainian military authorities, they announced and reported about the heavy clashes near Bogorodichne even 2 times. The first one was a few weeks ago, before the fire started in this forest, and the second one was yesterday. Meanwhile, the Russians, according to their sources, according to their information, they are saying that the Russians started their offensive operation towards Gusaravka. They're showing this offensive operation on their map. What does it mean? The Russians, they are not in this town Gusaravka. They're on the northeast of the town, maybe in the suburbs, maybe they're in the town Alexandrovka, maybe they're in town Pashkovia. But the main idea of this offensive operation, of course, is to cut this railroad support. We know that the Russians, they are starting their offensive operation towards Lysychansk. They want to encircle this area, and we know that this railroad that connects Barvinko and Slaviansk is the only one railroad that connects these two areas. If the Russians are able to cut this railway anyhow, that means that this entire area won't receive any heavy equipment from the West countries. So if we are talking about encirclement of this area, this operation is very important. And the Russians, they started this operation this morning. So they started offensive operations towards Gusaravka, towards Dovgenke and towards Bogorodichne. So they're attacking on this front line. Now we're moving towards Bila Gurvka. If we take a look at Bila Gurvka, we see that neither West sources or the Russian sources, neither of them updates this map. Just few Telegram channels, military channels, says that there are still heavy clashes in this area. And I believe that there are some heavy clashes in this area. But as far as I understand, the Russian forces, they couldn't establish their bridgehead in this area. Not like they have the bridgehead, but they can't establish their stable bridgehead in this area. And first of all, because of many reasons. First of all, because the Ukrainians have their Bila Gurvka, at least half of Bila Gurvka. They have their Novodruzhevsk, and Novodruzhevsk located on the hill. They have this landfill, these both Bila Gurvka landfills. So the Russians, we can mark as the bridgehead of the Russians in these areas, and this like small line in this area, like saying that the Russians are there, that they're still fighting there. But to tell the truth, the Russians, they lost their surprise effect in this area. We saw that they crossed this river, they moved in this area a lot of forces, a lot of heavy equipment, and they wanted to start their offensive operation towards Lysychansk, towards Zolotarivka, using the surprise effect, but they lost this surprise effect. The Ukrainians, they enforced this area, and I'm not sure if the Russians are able to move further, because as we know, they're on the lowland, and the Ukrainians, they're controlling most of the hills in this area. We can say that, first of all, this Bila Gurvka, the opening of the second, another front line in this area was the main target of the Russians, main goal. But now I can say that for now it's no longer the main goal of the Russians. For now, as they're using this as the second line of attack, support attack, supply attack. I mean that these forces, they do their job. First of all, they froze the Ukrainian forces in this area. By the way, yesterday we got information that Zelensky sent another 5,000 soldiers in this area and 300 of heavy vehicles in this area. That means that this attack gave some success to the Russians, and they forced the Ukrainians to move some reinforcements from Lysychansk toward this area, and now they need more reinforcement. And Zelensky sent another group of soldiers towards this area. This morning we got information that the Russian forces, they started their offensive operations toward the town Shidrivich. According to the West map, we can see that this town is under the Russian control, but according to the Russian sources map, we see that this town is under Ukrainians. And I think that we should believe to the Russians, because today we got information from Ukrainian side as well that there are heavy clashes in the town Shidrivich. So the Russians, they're attacking this town from the Voyevodovka and of course from the forest from the north. In this area. So they're trying to establish control over this town. If they are able to do this, they will be able to start their offensive operation toward the Severodonetsk from this forest. As you can see, there is no river that Ukrainians can use as a native defense, but there is just a forest, and the Russians, as soon as they establish control over the Shidrivich, they will continue their offensive operation toward the Severodonetsk. Another important news came today from this area, that the Russians started their offensive operation also towards the Voronove in this area. It was in the morning military report. In the evening military report, the Ukrainian side, they announced that the Russians were defeated during the offensive operations toward Barivsky. So as I understand, the Russians, after they attacked Voronove, they attacked toward Barivsky, or they were attacking from the forest, but this attack was defeated by the Ukrainians and the Russians retreated on their position. Another important thing that I noted from the yesterday's Ukrainian military report, they said that the Russians collect their feast in this area, in the Novoaidar. They brought here as much as they have of heavy equipment to this area. It's a very rich area for the Russian tanks, Russian armored vehicles and soldiers. So they have here a lot of forces. And it was yesterday, it was in the yesterday reports, and today the Ukrainians, they announced about these two attacks. Offensive operation towards Shidrivich and offensive operation towards Voronove. And also it confirmed that these towns still under Ukrainian control. Now we're moving to the Tashkovka and Kumyshovache area. As I see, the Russians, they stuck in Nizhny and in the west part of town Tashkova, because the Ukrainians, few days in a row, they're saying that the Russians, they're trying to cross this area to establish control over this town Tashkova and Tashkovka, and the main idea, of course, to move towards this road and to cut this road to establish control over entire Tashkovka and entire Chikhirovo. That means if they are able to do this, of course, this entire group will be get into the cauldron. And we know that Ukrainians, they are preparing their feast in the town Girske. They have their lot of forces. They move their center in this area, because of the fact that they know that the Russian attacking from this side, from side of Tashkovka, from side of the Papasna, Kamyshovacha, from Orekhova. So that's why they decided to collect all their forces in Girskia, and it will give them a very nice balance between the flanks. So they can manipulate with the flanks, and as far as they see, they are still pretty successful in this area. Meanwhile, the Russians are doing their offensive operation towards Vrubivka from Papasna. I don't have any information about their result. The only thing that Russian sources said that the Russians established control over the town Alexandropol. This is under the Russian control. And there is no more news about any updates, any success in Kamyshovacha itself or the Vrubivka. After I put all the markers on the map, I wondered what the next step in this operation was. I see that it is very difficult for the Russians to give every meter of this land. And if we assume that at this rate they will take Donbas for a whole year, but I'm not sure that they have that much time. And I'm sure that the Russians' military leadership, their authority, understand this. And the Ukrainian military leadership also understand this. And then I realized that the encirclement of the Lysychansk group is not the main goal for the Russians. They have a completely different goal, more elegant, more beautiful, and more classic. The Russians know that Ukrainians are preparing to encircle this region. Therefore, it makes no sense to surround this region, because the enemy is preparing for this. For the Russians, the encirclement of this region is the plan B in case plan A fails. The Ukrainian military authorities is initially preparing for the plan B, having no idea that the Russians have completely different goals. And this is their big mistake. The Russians do not plan to surround the Ukrainian army, because this will lead to the next few months of clearing these territories from Ukrainian soldiers. Of course, they will be forced to do this if plan A fails. So what do the Russians want? I will answer you. The Russians want to collapse the entire Ukrainian front in this region and want to force Ukrainian soldiers to surrender or flee the battlefield for their lives. And in order to do this, they either need to break the Ukrainian army near Bila Gurvka, or to try to open another front line southeast of Lysychansk in this place. And that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel and enjoy your evening. Bye bye.